You'd think I'd be ready for a question like that.
Those were just for you. Those are special for you.
All right, sweet. What was the question again?
Well, we were talking about getting high.
Oh, yeah. I want to have the thing that I've been frustrated not having my entire life. And I don't know what it looks like. I kept seeing this image of chess pieces falling and I couldn't get it out of my head. And like at a young age, I had to think about death in a way that I think a lot of other kids didn't. And then I was basically like, everything that I knew was different. The job I'd been at my entire career and my relationship for 11 years. I've made it this far and I've lost almost everything else, but I still have my independence and I can still take care of myself. And that means I can be whoever I want to be now. And I'd realize how much of not me I'd been being. I tend to absorb other people's energy. I even feel embarrassed saying that, but it's something that has proven true in my life. I'm finding that as that frustrates me more, that maybe I am more excited to get stuff out there, you know? Maybe I had to wait till I was the full version of me that I wanted to be. I went to the doctor and they measured me at 6'1" for the first time in my life. I'm like, oh, that's the yoga. If you're not getting healthier, you're getting less healthy. So you need to be taking an active role in being who you want to be or it's not going to happen.
But you know what? Actually, my mind was kind of breaking in the middle of our interview because I realized that.
But now I've realized that the experience in sharing that moment with somebody has a value that I'm way more ready for than I ever was.
I love it. It gets me so excited.
I'm honestly about to cry. But I would wish somebody would say something like that about me. Wow.
Hey everyone, I'm here with Timmy to introduce this week's episode. I'm not feeling very cute today, but Timmy's always cute, so here he is. So this week's episode, I got to sit down with Soma79. Soma has a really great sense of humor, and we had a really fun, easy, flowing conversation. I love, how was hinted in the teaser, we kind of get to experience this beautiful transformational process from the caterpillar through the chrysalis to the butterfly, getting out there and living its best life. It was really nice. And don't forget that I was on Soma's podcast as well, so definitely check the description for the link to that. And I hope you enjoy this conversation. Thanks for coming.
Hi Soma, how's it going?
Fantastic. How are you doing today, Kim?
I'm doing great. Welcome to my podcast. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, and thank you for being on my podcast.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, that was really fun.
Yep. The Articulate Ox. I believe the episode's already out now. If people want to check it out.
It's out now?
Well, it's out. It'll be out.
By the time this comes out.
Yeah. Doing some tricky math on what day this is. So.
I don't know what day it is.
That's the way I prefer it.
So, you came out here. I really appreciate it. I'm excited to talk.
Yeah.
So you're an artist, you're a rapper. You host a podcast, which is awesome.
Yep.
And is there anything else you want people to know about you?
Let me think. Yeah, I'm a hip-hop artist. I have a few albums come. Actually, you know what? I'll get this out of the way. Quiet Life, Loud Friends, my new album with my man Pillsy Beats, came out earlier this year. We got a bunch of other albums coming out this year, and that's really my focus, is working on music, trying to connect through music. And I started my podcast a few years ago, actually a little over a year ago, because I felt that I was just not interacting with anybody like me, and I just wanted to meet new people that were actually like me, because I felt like the village idiot just sitting by myself in a small town. And it's really been great. I've met all types of new people, yourself included. And yeah, I'm excited to see where it takes me.
Yeah, fellow village idiot here. I love that, thing. Whatever. What am I trying to say?
Analogy,
I love that,
metaphor?
yeah. Wow, words. So yeah, I have a couple questions
Yeah.
that I wrote down for you, and then like hopefully we can.
Yeah,
I'm
just
sure
whatever.
we'll have like a good flow because.
Yeah, I'm an open book unless you ask me something I don't want to answer.
Okay, there you go.
Kidding.
That works too. So let's see. Do you want to talk about where you're from, where you live?
Sure. Well, I was born in Framingham, Mass. Years and years and years ago. My full rap name is Soma79, and 79 is the year that I was born. So, for anybody trying to steal my identity, you can start there. So I grew up in Framingham, moved to Hip Hopkinton, where I lived most of my life. Started the marathon, all that good stuff. Went to Boston University for film school, did a little bit of film work after that, made a short film across the hall with the dude from Entourage, Adrian Grenier, which did pretty well. Went on to be a feature film. And didn't really enjoy that, getting into different stuff, but it was really hip-hop that I wanted to do, and I played in a bunch of groups around Boston for years. Mike Monarchy, Project Mayhem, opened for some of the, some independent hip-hop acts that I admired as a kid, and then a family member got sick, and I just pushed all that aside and learned how to draw, and I just kept drawing for a decade after, because I really felt I was going nowhere with rap, and that I basically had no chance of ever getting anywhere. I had this pivotal moment sitting in traffic one day when I realized it's over. It's not going to happen. And then when the pandemic came, I decided that I had unfinished business and I wanted to rap, and that's been my main priority ever since. Like that, just album art and just meeting people and traveling, and I'm doing a couple shows this summer. I'm opening for my favorite rapper in California, so I'm
That's
excited.
amazing.
Yeah.
So cool.
I can tell you all the bad things too, but I'm focusing on the good.
Yeah, you have to, right?
Yeah.
Do you want to tell us about like what is happening? You're opening for your favorite rapper.
Oh yeah, this
That's
guy,
really cool.
Elza, he's from Detroit. He's just amazing. Go check him out. He did this album Illmatic a bunch of years ago, where he had a live band do all the beats from the Nas Illmatic album, and he flipped them up, and it's so great. And I've been a fan of his ever since. I've done some songs with him, and then we were able to just make a show happen. Like, he's going to be in California. We decided we're just going to make it happen and go and do it and meet up with him, and I'm really looking forward to it. He's just been a huge influence on me, and yeah, it's funny. These are things that never would have happened a few years ago, but I just sort of manifested them out of a desire to no longer be scared of being second rate, So
Yeah, that's a huge thing, and well, that's really exciting. First of all, and I can totally relate because that's kind of 2020. That's like when I started getting back into making music. I found a studio that I started just recording songs, and I never expected that to happen again. Like, whenever I would sing, it would just be like a karaoke or whatever. I wasn't performing anywhere.
What's your go-to karaoke song?
Oh, so I have some from back in the day, but now I kind of like almost sing anything. But some of my older favorites are No Doubt, Don't Speak,
Oh, good one.
and Madonna, Like a Prayer.
That's very good.
Yeah.
Mine is the Humpty Dance, so
Oh,
I
yeah.
have a limited vocal range. I performed that on my last tour. I actually dressed up fully like Humpty and did that stuff in a tribute. But you have a
song.
beautiful voice too.
Oh,
Actually.
thank you.
Not to put you on the spot, but I did actually yesterday write and record a song that I was gonna give to you in case you wanted to add a hook to it. So no pressure, but if you, I based it on sort of some of the stuff we talked about in our episode of my podcast. So,
Wow.
we'll see how it sounds.
How exciting.
Yeah, I'll play it for you after. And
Okay.
if you don't like it, we can cut this part out.
Oh, man, that's awesome. Wow, thank you for doing that. Wow.
No problem.
So, yeah. Okay, let me see. Yeah, why is creativity important to you? And important in general in the world, in your opinion? What are your personal... that's another question. Okay.
Creativity is something that it's played a huge role in my life. It's something that I felt like when I was a kid, all I wanted to do was draw. And I showed you before here, I have this tattoo here. I can't really show it. I can even show it on camera a little bit. But it's of Garfield that I drew as a little kid. I found in an old notebook. And that was all I could draw back then. Because I got one of those Garfield books that showed you the step by step. And I drew it on everything. And I kept drawing it and drawing it. And then, but all people wanted to do was be like, you got to play baseball. You're big. You got to play football. You got to do this stuff. And I'm just like, I don't want to do any of this stuff. And I got forced to do it. I was terrible. It was embarrassing. I just had all this shame and bullying and stuff. And it was just like creativity was just waiting there because it's what I really needed. But there was no outlet for that. I went from a really small town. And then once I was able to kind of get out of my town, and realized that, once you hit 18, no one's forcing you to play baseball anymore, which is like the best part of being an adult as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
And I just decided to go nuts with it, and it became something that it was my salvation. It was what I could go to when other things weren't going right. Like, having coming out of a childhood when I didn't feel very connected to people and felt bullied a lot, like I needed some place to go that wasn't dark, and that ended up being it. And then I was terrible at first. Like I went to film school. I couldn't write a script to save my life. My brain just wasn't organized enough, and I was neurodivergent and didn't realize it. I had ADHD, OCD, all of that stuff. And over the years, I sort of worked my way through that and kept applying the good parts of it to learning like my craft. And I learned how to learn, which opened up all these doors to me. Because I had gotten through high school and college by being able, they say in cards, you don't play the cards, you play the man or play the person. And for me, it was like I could pass tests without really being able to study, because I was sort of able to understand the way they were going to ask and what they were going to ask and be prepared for it. But that didn't serve me in the real world. It would only help you pass tests. So I was good at jumping through hoops, but then I had to learn new ways to cope, and I had to teach myself how to learn in my 20s. And then I just kept wanting to get better and better. It gave me the confidence that I never had in any other area of my life. So it's really means everything to me. There isn't a day that goes by that I don't do something creative. I mean, I wrote and recorded 2 songs yesterday. I did, I think, 5 last weekend. I've done album art all week. I've edited multiple podcast episodes. I've driven out here to see you. It's like so much of my life now is based upon creativity, because it's really what fuels me.
So awesome. So speaking of your songs, I listened to one of your songs that you have on YouTube yesterday.
Which one?
This is the only one that I could find. These trees have eyes.
Oh, did you find the video?
Yeah, the video was amazing.
Yeah, I shot that in my backyard and then down the street from me.
Oh, wow. Okay, so I have something I wanted to ask you about.
That's the first song on this record.
Oh, sweet.
Yes.
All right, this is a question I wrote out for that. So, it really articulated the feeling of being stoned vividly for me.
I have some experience with that.
Yeah.
So.
Can we talk about getting high and what it does for your creativity?
Yes, I can definitely talk about it. Do you smoke weed?
I don't smoke anymore because it hurts my lungs a lot.
Yeah,
But
I prefer edibles.
Yeah, I do some edibles sometimes.
I find that edibles actually, they're more reliable because they give me that giggly, happy feeling, which I like when I get stoned. With regular weed, I find it's unreliable, and like I can either have too much or not think I had enough and not have so I prefer edibles in general. They get me. And it also takes away that feeling of instant gratification that I think a lot of, I'm somebody, I don't drink, I wouldn't say that I was an alcoholic, more of like a gray area drinker, but I'm somebody who, if I left unchecked, could have a bad relationship with alcohol. And I think taking away the instant gratification of inhaling something and feeling high right away and having it be something you take in a weight, that for me is a weird difference that impacts me. But from a creative perspective, I found that I need it, or I could use it, or I don't, or not. It doesn't really matter. I think there was a point in my life where a lot of the music I was making years ago was bad because I was high all the time. And it was just, I was writing stuff that I thought was maybe super vivid and intense and whatever, but it was just sort of trying to show off skills that I didn't have yet. And the storytelling was getting lost in the process. So then I kind of took a step back, and in that 10 years off, I approached it with a new mindset. And I mean, it's I definitely will smoke a bunch or take edibles while I'm recording a song. I have never seen a negative impact on it. To be honest, it sometimes helps me focus on the moment. With like my ADHD, it kind of takes part of my brain, like almost gives it a basketball to dribble while the rest of it's focusing on a song.
So that's just an interesting way to put it.
Yeah, that's what a lot of my ADHD is about dealing with. It's like realizing that I'm almost always going to have to keep 2 people busy. Like the 2 people, like saying I have 2 people in my head makes me sound whatever. But it's like I have to remember there's always going to be a part of my brain that's either going to be working against me or can work for me if I use it the right way. So I have to do that. And it's funny. One of my earliest childhood memories is, I remember this like it was yesterday. I have this vivid feeling of being frustrated that I couldn't maintain 2 separate complete thoughts at the same time. I was like 3 or 4. And I was like trying to think about a cow and I think a crayon at the same time with equal like intensity and like almost be able to do 50-50, and I couldn't do it. And I remember thinking that, oh, this brain is a jip. Like, this is like, like, what is like? No, no, probably shouldn't use that. I think that word is not supposed to be used anymore.
I've never heard that word actually.
Well, it's short for. I think it's short for gypsy. I think it's like.
Really?
And I think that's why it occurred to me. Probably not supposed to use it. But yeah, it's just I remember like feeling just, come on, I've already pushed the limits of this thing. But, I don't know. I never really felt like I was a kid. I was telling someone recently that. I have this memory of 5th grade. I don't know how I got here already, but you're really digging it out of me. I remember we were in 5th grade and we were about 10, and they did a survey of the class about we're going to watch a movie in class and what movie are we going to do, and everybody voted for Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. And I remember thinking at 10, aren't we too old for this? And then I literally I don't remember ever really feeling like a kid. I remember always feeling like separated from it, you know. Here I am, childless at 45. Is there a connection? I don't know.
Do you feel like that's kind of like... Okay, this is getting out there now.
No, go for it.
Do you think that, like, this is, like, that's your soul's perspective? Like, maybe you're a really old soul, and that's why, like, you feel advanced and, like, you don't relate to kid stuff anymore? Like, kid stuff doesn't really entertain you?
I think so. There's another part of it, too, though. You know what Jason Mantzoukas is, the comedian? You might know him if you saw him. He's gone on a lot of shows, and he's from Nahant, the little island right off Lynn. And he like me grew up with very severe food allergies, like eggs for him and for me it's shellfish. And I heard him say this on a podcast a few years ago, and it really struck me. He's like, when you're a kid and they tell you that eggs might kill you, you're being introduced to the idea of death at a very young age. And I was like, holy shit, that's what happened to me. Wow. It's like everybody else is trying to enjoy their day, but I have to think about whether the hot dog was in the same water, that the fries are in the same fryer as like the shrimp. And like at a young age, I had to think about death in a way that I think a lot of other kids didn't. And then I also spent a lot of time in the hospital. I was a bubble boy, as my friends call me. Like I had scarlet fever and pneumonia at the same time in the first grade, and I was in like a tent at the hospital. And it was like I missed out on a lot of that childhood stuff. Not a ton of it, but enough of it at a young age. And I just never felt I carried an anxiety with me from a very young age. You know, and I think it's just So yeah, what was the question again?
Well, we were talking about getting high.
Oh yeah. Am I high?
I mean, I don't think you're high. I don't know. But I don't know if you got high before you got high.
It's up to you to decide.
Well, that's really interesting that you bring that up because, like, I think that's something that a lot of people don't think about with, like, kids growing up with allergies. And that perspective is worlds away from kids that don't. Yeah.
The other thing, too, I mentioned this in the question here before, is I'm non-binary. And it's something that I've really only become comfortable really sharing in the past few years, but it had been there all the time as a kid. And it's like, I'm the type of non-binary where I just don't really feel a connection to gender at all. Like, I've been somebody who, and the reason in some ways I could get through my whole life without telling anybody this, but the reason I kind of bring it up with people when it's significant is that I've never had, like, my relationship with men have always been a little off. My relationship with women are always a little off, unless you kind of understand that spectrum. I don't necessarily feel comfortable in large groups of men or like with typically male stereotypical attitudes in general. It just doesn't. And then I've always had better, closer relationships with women, but that often leads to women thinking you're interested when you're not, and stuff like that. And it's just like, until I was able to really be comfortable with saying this, I really felt like I wasn't letting people know who I really was, and it wasn't getting any relationship off on the right foot. So that was something I didn't really know what those words meant when I was a child, but I certainly knew how I felt. And I remember there being all these times in my life where, like, I remember picking up this My Little Pony doll when I was a little kid and liking the feel of it in my hand and the color and the way the plastic felt. But I remember it being clear to me this was not for me. But I never really understood why. And I still kind of don't. So
I'd love to talk more about that.
Whatever you want to know.
So, like, for maybe people who really don't understand non-binary and, like, what it really means, can you explain a little bit more?
Sure. I mean, it means different things to different people. It's It basically means that you don't feel. For me, it means, well, I feel totally biologically male, and I feel, just I'm biologically male. I don't feel connected with what I kind of am told it means to be male, which I guess when you say I'm told, you question who's telling you, stuff like that. But like, I've never. It's hard to describe something that's in my body that maybe people don't have the same perspective as me, but I've never felt comfortable around men as if I was one, I guess. And I felt that, and it's a way that is obvious if I'm in any way being my real self. And it's significant enough that if I don't mention it in some environments, like I said before, it sort of, people don't really know what to make of me to some degree. And I found, like, one thing that, like, so this is one thing that's in my life is the way that I've had to sort of not be my real self is I'd be out there wearing like a baseball hat that say like LA Dodgers, and some guy's gonna stop me and start talking to Dodgers about me. I'm like, dude, I have no idea what we're talking about. Like, I'm sorry, man, I like the hat. And then, but at a certain point, I started painting my nails. So I like the way my nails. I mean, I don't have them painted now, but I like the way my nails look. And like, so then when I go out in public, I could have the same Dodgers hat on, but it matches my blue nails. That person's not going to talk to me about something I want to talk about. But the other person, like that, like maybe the woman or someone who would probably be scared of me because I'm big and tall, they're more friendly to me. And they're like, oh, I love your nails. And it's like, I find that the people who I feel more inside connected to, I feel more connection in public with because of the way I express myself this way. And I feel that I'm in less situations where I feel almost secondhand, demeaned or condescended to. And that's been a big difference for me, is ways that it's helped me control my environment a little more. And as somebody who's highly, I tend to absorb other people's energy. It's important to me to be around people whose energy I trust.
Yeah. So how does that identity, how does that like help guide your life, and like, does it change anything for you to, well, you kind of talked about how, like, it helps. So, like, does that mean anything about, like, who you're attracted to and stuff? Like, how does dating go with that?
I've only ever dated women. I do find that I get along better with bisexual women for some reason. That's sort of been the theme over the years. It seems like there's I don't know if kinship is the right word, but there's a wavelength match that seems to happen more often. I did have a funny moment where I've never been into men, though I did have kind of a funny moment when I watched The Flash. That you're familiar with that?
Yeah.
Okay. So the lead actor in The Flash is Ezra Miller, who is also non-binary. They use the pronouns they, them. And if anybody knows anything about Ezra, they've had some significant mental health issues over the past several years. And in watching that movie, I remember watching it going, wow, I'm kind of maybe crushing on this person a little bit. And after the movie, and this is me watching a non-binary person play a cis person. And I had at least a little bit of that feeling. After the movie, I go to Google that person, and now I'm looking at the non-binary version. I'm like, oh no. And it's like, I remember that moment being like, I don't know what just happened there, but something sort of happened there. But it was really kind of tiny and on the outskirts of whatever I got going on. But I'm like, I don't know. I don't know that it means a whole lot, other than maybe there's the potential that I could be attracted to other non-binary people in a way through a screen or another screen through like the whatever. And that's as close. But besides that, I'm pretty much just into women.
Cool.
Yeah. So
I love Ezra though.
Oh yeah, I do too, and I really did like them in that movie, and I hope whatever they have going on, I always hope the best for people struggling with something like that.
Yeah.
So, and hopefully, whatever victims are along the way are getting their help as well, because I know that they haven't, always been the best, but it's their cross to bear, not mine.
Yeah.
I just love the Flash; he's my favorite character.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're into like comic book type stuff.
I was as a kid, and now I haven't read comics in years. I don't keep up with the movies really anymore. It's it became too much. It was just, and I'm like, okay,
there's too much. It's like they keep going.
I know, and it's just never ending, and it's just so. I loved it as a kid. I think that there was, for a lot of people like me who felt lost as a child, they kind of fell into one of the three of hip hop, pro wrestling, or comic books, and and they all sort of are based around this concept of taking yourself and building up a bigger version of yourself and almost faking it till you can make it. And I think that's relatable to people who feel either physically too big or too small as a child, bullied or whatever. This fantasy of making a bigger version of yourself, and it appeals to people like that. And I've been a big fan of those three things off and on over the course of my life.
Nice. All right. Let's see what else I got. Yeah, who are your personal heroes?
Personal heroes. Wow. You'd think I'd be ready for a question like that.
Yeah, I asked because you kind of mentioned a little bit about that in answers to me.
I mentioned before, we talked a little bit about this other rapper, Esoteric, who's sort of, well, I think of him as like the mayor of Boston hip hop. He's the guy everybody knows and loves, and no one has a bad word about him. He's somebody who I've always really admired because he's just kind of a dopey white dude like me from the suburbs, and he loved rap like I did and just kept pushing his way into it. And there's been nobody I've ever met who has a bad word to say about the guy. And you're in an industry where everybody, it's predicated on saying bad things about each other. But every person to a man or to a person has nothing but great things to say about him. And he's proof to me that he's a family guy, loves animals, it's proof to me that you can be the version of you want to be and still be just a decent, successful human being. So that's something I've always admired about him. Though at moments I felt, well, there's not room for two of us in Boston hip hop, but that was like years ago. But he's somebody who I'd say I very much admire and is sort of a personal hero of mine. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of how I felt a little bit with singing too. Sometimes, like, I was talking to Beth, who I interviewed. She's a vocal coach, and we are kind of talking about toxic competitive energy in like singing or like performing or even in the arts. Like when
even in sports, I think.
Yeah,
like
totally.
Anywhere.
That also wasn't really my world, but like from my experience, like. Yeah, it was like if I wasn't the best singer, then I would just be like feel defeated and I feel like I don't have, because all I want to do is sing. I would feel like, well, then I am worthless or something. Yeah. If I'm not the best.
But it's more about being the best you that you can be.
Because now I know that.
Because no one is exact. I mean, it's just taking what you have and making the best of it.
Right. Yeah.
It's the toxic competitive stuff is something that comes up a lot with me. It's we've talked a little about video games before. I growing up, I remember just seeing my friends lose their mind over video games, like throwing controllers, and I'm like literally like I don't care. Like people wouldn't like playing with me because I didn't care if I won or lost, so there was no fun trash talking me. And I'm just like, come on, people. Like I save all my competitive energy for when it really matters, and it's basically me competing against myself to do something better than I did yesterday. I have no interest in competing with other people on almost anything. It doesn't fire me up. It doesn't bring out that, like, I think it's some people it brings out that Roman Colosseum, like fighting the lions, instinct in them. But I guess I don't have a lot of that. It doesn't bring it out of me at all.
Yeah, I think with Beth we ended up saying, like, yeah, the best thing is to compete against your former self. Like, that's the only competition that you should focus on, and that's the only kind of healthy competition I think there is. Because there's not really any use in comparing yourself to other people because everybody has such different experiences. You can't really compare. Yeah. Like we kind of talked about on your podcast. Right.
I sometimes will get in the habit of doing the thing that like Michael Jordan talks about, is about making an enemy of somebody you kind of barely know and sort of just going, okay. And for me, it's not an enemy, but I'll put somebody as sort of like the mark on the map and go, I can get there in a couple years. Or I can see where this person is. They got there by doing this. I can apply this and get there or better. So I'll do a little bit of that, but it's nothing that anybody ever knows about except for me. And I think it's healthy.
Yeah.
I'm not like throwing bricks through these people's windows.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've done that too, in like I'm talking about like in a admirable kind of way, like these people that I admire. Like, yeah, I want to get my podcast to that level.
Yeah.
Like Andre and Know Thyself. Like his podcast is amazing. He inspires me a lot. So.
Yeah. And just the free exchange of ideas is inspiring. It's I mean, there's value to us being here, having this conversation. That's been a big part of me. Is I feel like I got so disconnected from people for years, and just being able to feeling like there was no way for me to connect with people, and now there are all these ways.
Yeah.
You know,
I love it.
I love it too.
It gets me so excited.
It does, and it's like these are things that like I finally feel like there's only one version of me, and I feel like I can be the same me everywhere I go, and it's authentic, and and I have actual real confidence. It's something that I never thought I'd have as a child. You know, I had blustery ego for a while, but I never had real confidence. You know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That took a lot of integrating for me. But maybe for you too. But I mean, I think that's kind of how it goes. Like you become aware of all the separate expressions of yourself, and then you're like, wait a second, I'm one person, and if I could be one whole person, then that's powerful.
Yeah,
bring it all in. And
I learned that through yoga too. There's this wrestler, Diamond Dallas Page, who started this thing called DDP Yoga for Diamond Dallas Page, and it was when he started it in the early, like the mid 2000s, and he was focused on yoga for real guys before men would commonly do yoga. And it was just focused on getting men. It was like high intensity yoga that focused on, and I got the tapes, and I'll tell you, I've never been in better shape in my life. But what it did was, for the first time in my life, it didn't feel like I had an arm, a chest, a leg. It felt like everything was working together. And then you can get your body doing that, then get your soul and your mind doing that. That's what I'm looking to do. I mean, that's, obviously now I didn't flex and these sleeves fell off or anything, but like, it's just as I'm in my mid 40s, I feel like I'm physically, mentally, and emotionally in better shape than I thought I would be.
Awesome. Yeah, it's just like you integrated everything.
It's the goal. I feel so almost arrogant talking about this. I mean, these are things that we work so hard at in our lives. And then you work hard at something, and then it almost feels easy once you actually get it, and you forget how hard you worked.
Mm-hmm.
So what about you? Who are the people that you admire?
Oh, yeah, well, like I said, Andre Ducum, he does the Know Thyself podcast. God, there's a lot of people. I think I mentioned to you on your show a couple of people from my wish list. Robert Edward Grant. He's just this beautiful soul, and he so smart, and he's so smart, and he knows that he is very well spoken and stuff, but he just opens himself up to everything. Like he opens himself up to possibilities like that, even though he could be wrong, but he's really good at explaining things. Who else? Timmy. I admire Timmy.
Oh, I admire my
Timmy.
cats too.
Oh, I think this is the first time. Well, he doesn't come up here often when I'm filming.
It's very sweet.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Sailor Moon. I gotta see Sailor Moon. Sailor Moon is.
I was a little
She's
too
fictional,
old
but
for
I love
Sailor
her.
Moon. Everybody, that and things like the Power Rangers and even Pokemon, and I was just a little too old. I do love the Powerpuff Girls, though. I'm a big Powerpuff Girls fan.
They're awesome.
But yeah.
Yeah, Sailor Moon is actually ended up being a really cool show. They just bring so much into it. They even have trans people in the last season.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. And it's just a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful story of unconditional love and evolution. And I feel like I have been kind of watching through the first season again, and I want to rewatch all of it. Yeah, I just feel like it's such a deep and relevant story, even for our times right now.
Yeah. I mean, it's transcended all these years.
Yeah.
It's still around.
I like the original version, though, not the remake. They remade it, and they ruined it.
Yeah.
So.
They've been doing that with Ninja Turtles for the past 25 years, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's something else I wanted to say off of before you asked me who my personal heroes were. Trying to see if I can remember.
What about you, Timmy? You remember?
Timmy, help. Like, I'm just here to look cute.
I will use this opportunity, though I mentioned before I don't usually use my real name. My real name is Tim, and we talked about this on the podcast and how I didn't realize till about 2 years ago that I could be going by the word name Moth, because it's right there in the middle of Timothy, and it's catching on with like 3 people, but that's it. So, if you see me and you want my attention, call Moth.
I like it.
I think it's one of those things that kind of sounds dumb the first time you hear it, but if you've heard it a million times, it's like, oh yeah, it's Moth.
Yeah.
What's up? You have to say it in that voice, I guess. Not Tim.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've been running from the name Timmy my whole life, though. Nothing makes me feel smaller than when someone calls me Timmy.
Yeah.
So he looks
But-
good on you, though, bud.
He's just a little baby, so it's,
Yeah, you
he's
look
like
good.
giving a dirty look now, though.
Yeah, he's like, I know what you're saying. Yeah. Oh, well, made an enemy today.
Oh my god.
He's like, who is this jabroni in my house?
Oh my god, Timmy, stop. Okay, whatever. He's just gonna judge us. He does it all the time. It's normal.
I'm gonna start to sweat.
I will. Okay. This is a good question.
Okay.
What does your own personal growth as a person involved, and what about as an artist?
What is it? What do you mean involved? Like,
So, like your own personal growth, that you've gone through in life. We talked a little bit about that.
yeah. Let's see what other great stories I haven't shared yet. I can talk about my 2017 was a real mess. That actually really helped shape my life. I've been in a company for 18 years. And so around the end of 2016, I started going like this. I don't know if you can see on the camera, but it started like, and like I thought nobody noticed. And one day my fiance was like, hey, why the hell are you doing that? I'm like, oh, that's not just in my head. So I concentrated on stopping it. And then I started taking my tooth and biting the tip of my tongue. And I would do that more and more. And then one day it started bleeding. And then I was like, oh, I'm like one step away from cutting myself, which is something I never really understood the concept of why people would do that, but it was starting to make a lot more sense. And I was like, well, I could just do what I was doing with this and suppress it, but Lord knows where it goes from there.
Wow.
And so in my company, I don't want to get too much into it, but there have been a lot of changes, and there were people in charge who seemed like they just really didn't like the reality that I was presenting to them when I showed them some cold hard numbers, and they both didn't want to get rid of me, but also didn't want to have my life be good. And eventually, I just went in one day, and I never really thought I had OCD, but like I realized it was. I kept seeing this image of chess pieces falling, and I couldn't get it out of my head. And so I was supposed to leave that day to go to my best friend's bachelor party up in Vermont, and we go up there. And I was just feeling like all sorts of frustrated about work. And I'm talking to some guy, and I'm just ranting about how much I hate my job. And he goes, where do you work? And I tell him, and he goes, oh yeah, my brother works there. He says they're absolutely horrible. And I was like, oh, good, more confirmation. And I just decided to go home. I'm like, I need to go on short-term disability. And I ended up taking 3 months off. And I mention this because it's something important that people know, that don't feel ashamed to do this, especially if you've been in the company for so long, that like they had to keep my job for 13 weeks and pay me almost the majority of my salary. Well, I got significantly better, and I realized that I just had this excessive compulsive disorder, and a very minor medication made it significantly better. And I came back my first day and I quit because I had a new job. And I had a new job in my company, which I don't want to go into, but they're much more supportive of mental health. And that was great. About 2 months later, my relationship of 11 years ended. My ex ended it with me right after the holidays. And I don't want to get into details of that because her and I have a great relationship. And, to talk about it may not sound like we do. But and then I was basically like everything that I knew was different. The job I'd been at my entire career was now gone. I was someplace new where I had no actual clout or anything, and my relationship for 11 years was gone. When with it, like I was gonna have to leave. We're gonna have to sell our house together and our condo, and so that was a moment for me where I remember just thinking grateful that so many of my friends would be moving back in with their parents right now. That like because they hadn't really emotionally, mentally, or financially planned for moments like this. But I had, and I clung on to that going, I've made it this far. I've lost almost everything else, but I still have my independence, and I can still take care of myself. And that means I can be whoever I want to be now. And I'd realized how much of not me I'd been being for a long time. I'd been
Mhm.
presenting a different version of myself at work, even a different version of myself in my relationship, because I felt almost ashamed to be who I was.
Mhm.
And it was just letting that chip away one bit at a time over the next several years. And some of those days were extremely painful, and some of them were extremely fulfilling. But I just realized that I lived too long not being happy, like suppressing who I really was to the point that it was actually happening when I was physically trying to suppress this escaping out of me. I was still trying to
Yeah.
push it down, and it was going to kill me. Like literally, there was no good way this was going to end, and it forced me into self growth because I didn't want to. I wasn't ready to give up yet. You know.
Mhm. Yeah. Wow. That was like clearly like a dark night of the soul for you. Like you went through, you almost like had to lose everything in order to like
Yeah.
move on from that.
Yeah, and it had to
Yeah.
be, and it was stuff I was white knuckling to hold on to.
Yeah.
The relationship should have ended years ago, and I should
Mhm.
have realized that I had value elsewhere at my company years ago. But I kept white knuckling it because I didn't want to change, and I lived so I could walk to work, and everything just fit so perfectly. But then one Jenga block falls out, and it all crumbles.
Mhm.
You know, it's just I was basically walking a tightrope for a decade.
Wow. Yeah, and that's the kind of thing that like when we talk about like spirit guidance, spirit doesn't want you to be walking a tightrope and
Right.
like just barely making, like they want the best for you. So when they cut that rope, that's the dark night of the soul, and that's like, okay,
Yeah,
this is the only way you're gonna listen.
there's repercussions to gritting your teeth.
Mhm.
And pushing through things. And I
Yeah.
think that's something that I was not, a lot of people in my generation were not brought up to think about it that way. They were brought up to think about there's nothing better than gritting your teeth and dealing
Yeah.
with things. But it just doesn't, it didn't work for me, you know. I ended up with, I don't know, smaller teeth. It's just, you know, but
Yeah.
it's harder to bite with ground down teeth. I don't think that belongs in a fortune cookie or anything, but I guess it makes some sense.
Mhm. Yeah. Society has definitely trained us to be good, good little worker bees.
Yeah.
I feel like.
It is funny though, to even like your point about you asking about, you know, how I date. It's like I get that question a lot now that I'm non-binary. Now that I'm recently out of another long-term relationship, so I'm single again. And the answer is like it only matters to people who don't want to date me. And like it's really
Yeah.
been like, if anything, it's been I've met more interesting people this time around, and people that are more like I find myself in the presence of people that are more tailored to who I am. And it's like I think a lot of people, when I hear people ask me that question, what I kind of, maybe I'm projecting, but what I kind of hear behind that question is, wait a minute, well, we all tell lies when we meet somebody, so how are you going to tell that lie and then later you either have to, and it's like the reality
Oh.
is you kind of just don't tell lies anymore. Like I think, because I
Yeah.
think a lot of people go in dating with a a fake version of themselves, and
Yeah.
they slowly ease off on it.
Big time.
And I just, and that is exhausting.
Mhm.
It is so exhausting being a fake version of yourself. And so, yeah, it really has not impacted that at all. If anything, it's made it easier.
That's good. Yeah. Yeah, that's a huge thing. Like, and I feel like these days, I feel like we're moving into higher consciousness, and I feel like a lot of people are not going to be able to tolerate lies anymore,
Right.
or living a lie,
Exactly.
because it's
Yeah.
so damaging.
It is. It's really, lying is just, it's, it's almost, I don't want to say it's the worst thing you can do, but it's something that changes a relationship forever. And it changes it when it's a coworker. It changes it, like, you can never really get it back once you've lost it.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just so much easier to be honest about who you are, because a lot of things that people lie about are just human things. Like I don't know if I mentioned this to you or somebody else, but so many people lie to themselves, and when someone's lying to themselves, I can't even get mad when they're also lying to me, because they're not even being truthful to themselves. So I've learned to be a lot more forgiving of people that are lying to me and clearly also lying to themselves, but I will do whatever I can to try to help them get back on the right path if I can. But
Yeah. It's too bad. Like, I mean, yeah, everybody's on their own path though. Like, so there are
Right.
definitely people who, so you said they're lying to themselves, but they're not really probably conscious of it. They're
Oh,
like,
yeah.
they're not aware.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm sure there are things I'm lying to myself about, you know. I mean, we talked about on the questionnaire that, like, I have this tendency that I do these things that try to get me attention, but I really hate the attention when I get it.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I'm both here showing the CD and also going, I don't care if anybody buys it and whatever. And I also have 4 unreleased albums with songs of people that anyone, a lot of underground hip hop fans know who they are and know their music, but I'm just like, it'll get out when it gets out. Because I'm almost more worried about, what if it is successful? Like, what then? Like, what do I have time for that? Do I have the place for it? Do I want what comes with it? And I don't know. I mean, maybe I think I keep saying no, I don't want those things, but maybe it's just because I don't want to deal with them happening and the inconvenience it may cause me.
So what are the things that come with it that you
Um,
perceive?
okay, to the point of, I mentioned before, I had lunch with Esoteric a few months ago because we're both producers on the same project, and we took a picture. And my friend's like, "Gonna post that online?" I'm like, "Not on my public pages because I know when I do, people are gonna be like, 'Yo, can you get me a beat? Can you get me whatever?'" And I posted it on my private page, and almost immediately somebody asked me and started texting me stuff.
Okay.
And I'm just like, this is, I mean, and I'm like, look, if you want to work with Esoteric, do the way anybody does. Write him a check. The guy's time is worth something, just like all of our time is worth something. And it's stuff like that where I already get a lot of people looking for stuff for me for free. And I'm happy to help some people, but there has to be a line. And it's that, and the money to me, you know, I do fine for myself. You know, it's like the money's, I would have to be very successful as a rapper to really, especially when you consider stuff like 401k, health insurance, I'd have to be a household name in order to make it worth it. So for me to walk away from a career that I do really like and fulfill to chase after something in my mid 40s, I don't even know if I really want. It's like I think I have the attitude of almost having one foot totally out because I know it's hard to have one in and one out. Like I can't be like Hannah Montana going to school during the day, going to school with Miley Cyrus during the day and being like, you know, Hannah Montana at night. I think that's what that's about. I've never actually seen that show. The Party in the USA is always in my top 5 on Spotify. So for me, I'm divided on that, and I might be lying to myself about that. It might be that I love that attention. It might be that I love people telling me how brilliant my whatever is, or just how sexy I looked on stage. You know, I feel like I wouldn't, but maybe I would, and maybe that would bring out the worst in me. I don't know. Maybe I'm trying to protect myself from something that I know could be toxic. Maybe I'm just answering questions you didn't ask. Sorry.
It's totally, it's a free for all. Go for it, whatever you want to say. But I was gonna say like maybe I don't know if that's something that like you meditate on. Maybe you'll like kind of get deeper on those feelings of like why you really feel that way.
Meditation is a big. Do you meditate?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How long have you been doing it for?
I've been doing it like non-consistently for a very long time, but like try to be like really consistent about it and do it every day for like the past few years, I'd say.
Makes a big difference, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Definitely.
There was a time actually, without getting too many details, at the end of the relationship that I recently ended, I was having this feeling where I couldn't have silence, where because I was scared of what the thoughts would feel like. So every moment of my day was filled up by music or a podcast or TV running in the background. And there's really no room for I was basically forcing myself out of being in the meditation space because I would, to go to bed, I'd put like a podcast on. When I woke up, I'd immediately push a button to start something. And it was almost like I was scared of what would happen if I meditated. And then once that relationship was over, I almost suddenly just felt the quiet and stillness. And it, you know, when that happened years ago with my fiance and I was terrified of that feeling. When it happened this time, it filled me full of life and remembering that there's so much more to do and enjoying the silence. And I felt like I could return to a meditative state again, and because I was closer to who I was. You know?
Yeah, nice. Yeah, you are closer to who like you are, like in reality, like not just as human.
Yeah.
body.
And just feeling, it takes a while. For people new to meditation, it does take some time. It's sort of like if you've ever got on a skateboard or skis, both things that I'm terrible at, where when I would try, I'd get up, I'd be moving, and then instantly all in my head is don't fall, now you're up, what do you do? And there's a little bit of that to meditation, where you'll find yourself drifting into that moment, and then you realize, I'm in the moment, and then you're instantly out of the moment.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that it's, this is a weird analogy, but it's like a gag reflex that wears down over time. And eventually your body, I found that my body enjoyed the feeling of being relaxed more than enjoyed the recognition of that state. Eventually I trained myself into that and I was able to go into it deeper. It's still hard sometimes. Every once in a while you think about like the eggs or whatever you forgot to buy at the store when you're in the middle of meditation, or your cat jumps on you or something, but it really made a big difference for me. I used to be prone to panic attacks. I haven't had one in years, and that was what really helped me.
Yeah.
Like literally, I'd have panic attacks where I was shaking. I physically could not stop shaking. My teeth would chatter. So, not to brag, but
yeah, no, like meditation, among like a lot of other things, have like changed me so much. Like I used to like you said, like I would have like teeth chattering moments like that too, just like uncontrollable like discomfort and stuff. But that was mostly for me when I was like dealing with something like working in corporate or like whatever I was doing with that, or
I mean that's what I was chewing on my tongue, was because of stuff like that, so I can relate. You present as very just confident in like. And like, I remember when I was on video, I'm like, she has excellent posture, and I was like, posture is something I've been working on for years. When I did a lot of that yoga for a summer, I went to the doctor and they measured me at 6'1" for the first time in my life. I'm like, oh, that's the yoga.
Wow.
It's giving me a little bit on each of my spine, whatever's, and I was like, so I have to get back to that. But you had the posture of somebody who did yoga, so. And there is something about the way people carry themselves. It does mean a lot. People take that body language. Like your body language comes off as somebody who's confident and also calm, and so.
Thank you. But yeah, that is definitely something that like I've kind of worked myself into. Like, I mean, and I guess I'm kind of conscious of my posture. I think it's probably because like I have like dealt with like back pain and like body issues.
Yeah.
So. Like, I try to be, like, in a position where, like, I'm not going to be, like, in pain later.
yeah. And that yoga helps so much of that stuff, too.
Yeah.
It's like I said, it's connecting your body in ways that I would do the elliptical and run for years, but that never would give me that same feeling that the full body yoga workout does,
Yeah, it's so good. Let's see. Okay, what is the happiness that you've created? And I wonder, like, because you kind of talk about, like, how, like, you're hesitant to release your music and maybe invite, like, other changes with that into your life. And it seems like you have, like, other happiness in your life that you don't want to interfere with. So.
It's sort of like this thing that I explain to people, is every time you find a new song that you love, you forget another song that you loved before. And that's my other attitude too about music, is that like music is not a job like that you go to, like your job or my job. It's basically a constant fight to stay at the top of the pile, because if you're not if you're at the top of the pile, it means you're relying on being up there for your entire life to work. And if you're at the very top, it means there's hundreds of people relying on you staying there, because Mariah Carey, a huge fan of her, she hires a ton of people, obviously. There's a lot of people, so she's, every day that she gets up and sings All I Want For You For Christmas Is You, she's helping other people get paid. It's like she carries that responsibility on her. And so, and then if you go deeper and lower than that, it's like you taking care of your family and stuff like that. I think that's the thing that for me, I don't want to be on that pile. I'd rather be the guy playing the guitar in this corner, everybody else is fighting over that stuff. And I think that actually gives me a better chance at succeeding in a weird way, because I kind of treat it like I'm a little above the fight, because I don't want to be a part of the fight. And even some of my music is about that. One of the reasons now I haven't released some of these albums, to be honest, is that, and I'm sort of a little grateful for this, but also getting sick of it, is I have 3 albums that are completed that are all being held up by one famous or semi-famous rapper who has not delivered the verse that they're supposed to deliver to me.
Oh,
And so that's holding it up a little bit. And finally now I'm chipping away at it. I think I'll have 2 of them this month. The other one's been a bit of a problem. But I'm finding that as that frustrates me more, that maybe I am more excited to get stuff out there. You know, maybe I had to wait till I was the full version of me that I wanted to be. You know, like, so.
cool.
I don't know.
All right. I wanted to ask you, but I don't know if it would be a very exciting conversation. But like the difference between Western Mass and like Boston area.
Oh, I have a lot to say about that.
Okay, let's go.
So when I was living in Hudson, which is, people don't know, it's sort of where 495, and the Hopkinson's where the 495 and Mass Pike meets. Hudson's a similar area. They're areas that did not have a lot of industry or anything until they suddenly realized, hey, this is where all the roads go, so let's build EMC and everything there. So it's a lot different now. When I was in Hudson, I always felt like it was more of a describable before. I couldn't go I used to do labels for a local brewery, did all their beer labels, and I go in there and everyone talking about the Patriots, all that stuff. I have nothing to say, talk about. I can't even talk about it without being like, hey, these people are all gonna, you know, the brain thing. Can we talk about that? And that's me. Is I can't not think that. So eventually it's gonna come out of my mouth. And I felt like I had a friend of mine who worked at that brewery who had moved out to the similar area to where I am. I barely knew this woman. We'd only kind of knew each other through there and barely talked. And I reached out to her to ask about moving out there. And she described where I lived in Hudson as being toxically heterosexual. Or aggressively heterosexual, I think was the word she used. And I didn't even realize that where I live now in Northampton is one of the more, you know, LGBTQ plus, you know, supportive areas. And so my friend is bi. And once I got out there, I realized how much of a difference that made. That, like, when I would wear nail polish a few times out in Hudson, people would look at me like I was absolutely insane. And they didn't know what to make of me. And it's just like, this is not groundbreaking stuff. I'm not like Marilyn Manson, like slaughtering a pig on like Mother Teresa's front lawn or anything. Like, you know, it's not to paint just a vivid picture of misery. But, and then when I moved out there, it was the first thing where I'm like, oh, I can just be myself here. I don't feel, and maybe some of that was in my head, though a lot of it I actually could feel. I could feel the energy happening in real life. So I don't think it was all in my head, but I couldn't. That was something that, having lived in Boston and slowly moved west, as that I released more and more of that, I felt better and better about myself. And like you know, I'm not a big sports fan in general. The Boston sports energy, to me, I'm the other end of whatever energy that is. I'm at the other end of it. You know, I'm not someone who's going to yell a racial slur at some player or throw a D battery at like a shortstop. You know, I can't get my mind around that at all. You know.
Yeah, I can relate to you on that.
Yeah, but though it's funny when I'll go to sometimes be in other cities and I'm like, oh, I'll go to a Dodgers game. I'm like, why is everybody so friendly here? People are just enjoying a nice day at the park. And it's almost, I remember having cognitive dissonance at a Dodgers game years ago, being like, no one's yelling. Like, people are, like, I just heard a guy say, please. Like, it was like, you know, this is California. I mean, they're not even known for their manners out there, you know. But,
Wow. Yeah, big difference then, huh?
yeah. That's why I wear a Dodgers hat.
All right. I didn't write a ton of questions. I don't know if there's anything else you want to touch on. I have, like, my last questions that I ask everyone at the end of my interviews.
I didn't really have anything in particular. Is there anything any other question? I mean, obviously you're at the end of them. Anything that's come up here you want to know about me, or?
I don't know. I can't think of anything. But you know what? Actually, my mind was kind of breaking in the middle of our interview because I realized that, like, you are, like, the doppelganger to one of my cousins.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like, the more I looked at you, I was like, oh my God. It's Bobby, like my cousin Bobby. I'm like, well, I kind of look just like him. It's crazy.
Hopefully it's not a bad thing.
No. But yeah, I don't know. Figured I'd mention that. I don't know.
Does
why.
he rap too?
No, he doesn't. He just got married. He's gonna be a dad soon.
Congratulations.
Yeah. Cheers, Bobby.
Speaking
I
of,
don't know if he'll watch this, but
does your family, like, what is your relationship with your family and this stuff? Because I'll mention that I don't want to get too much into it, but I've had some struggles with my family over the year in support from my family. Like, I have a sibling who is just out there to make my life miserable. Actually, I hadn't heard from him in years. I got a text from him this morning, and I don't give a fuck. I'll read. Is it okay if I swear?
yeah. Oh my god, yeah.
This is a text I get at 2 in the morning or whatever. Did you not think I was coiling to strike back? I haven't talked to this person in months. This is a text I get at 2 in the morning. And this will most likely, if it has in the past, follow with death threats. It will follow with harassment. It'll follow with me trying to get me feel guilty. And this will just go on, and my family will, to whatever degree, tolerate it. And so, for years, when he will do this to people that I'm friends with, he'll do this to other people as well. And like, I usually block him, but at this point, it takes everything I have not to respond with, "Oh, well, you're a Cobra now." Like, and like, I had a letterkenny meme that I was gonna send him that was like, "You're softer than 10-ply, bro." And I'm just like, but even that, I don't want to spend it's like, I don't like making fun of people. Like, in the moment, that feels fun, but I don't want to spend the whole day going back and forth. There's also a little part of me that goes, if this ever gets read back in court, I don't want my stuff to sound ridiculous.
Oh, God.
So, so for me, I even, on my new album, I just finished this album called One Bill Trill. Actually, I was waiting on one guest appearance. Young Hump from Digital Underground. You're not going to see this, but I'm going to see you August 9th at Foxwood, so let's hope it's done by then, my man. Huge Digital Underground fan. I'm working with, obviously the Humpty Dance. I've been working with a guy from there, but I know he's good for it, my man. And on that album, I have a song where I say, I don't really talk about the details of my family, but I say if anyone in my family hears this, just text me the word asterisk, and like, I'll give you an apology fast, quick. And like, I'm pretty confident that's never going to happen. It's the first song on the album, and it'll never happen. And it's like, that's still like, I grew up in a house where, because I wasn't good at sports, I was made to feel worthless. My brother was good at sports.
Was he your older or younger brother?
Older. He's my only brother. And it's like, and now he's doing this, essentially unable to take care of himself. And I'm just like, and I did everything to try to help him. But it's like, that for me is where creativity has had to sort of fill in some things, because it's this stuff. I talk about this almost arrogantly now, because I've come to a place where I have to distance myself from it. But it's been an enormous difficult part of my life that I've only now been able to finally have the confidence to say, I'm not. These texts aren't going to bother me anymore.
Yeah.
You know, like.
Yeah, that's important. Toxicity in family is really, really hard, and I think it happens in every family.
Yeah.
That's definitely something I've thought a lot about, like in my own personal growth, and some, like, people in my family might, like, I know everybody has opinions, and part of the problem for me is that, like, those, or whatever I've heard in the past, turns into, like, whatever I perceive their opinions to be about whatever I'm doing in the moment, and that kind of lives in my head.
Yeah. That's what I do to make the enemy of the person in my head.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you should make that jump, or be careful not to make that jump. But that's where I make it sometimes.
Yeah. Well, that's something that I work on. I have to tell myself, like, well, that's okay. That might be, like, my experience with that person in the past, but, like, that person's not here at the moment. Like, I'm not really, like, receiving their energy. Like, they're totally separate from me in this moment. So I can just let go of whatever this, like, opinion is that's not really anyone's opinion. It's just what I think it would be their opinion.
Right. And
I have to, like, bring, like, myself back to reality and say, like, this is not, like, this is all in my head. And I have to, another huge part of it is learning to see everyone with love, and it's kind of like what I told you about the advice that I gave my friend, that if you are worried about the way someone thinks about you, or worried about anything, like if you have some feeling that there's bad blood or something, or anything bad going on, you just have to remember, well, this can help, I think. Just remember that, like, from their higher perspective, their soul perspective, like, we all came here together. We made an agreement together to come and learn together and teach each other things, certain things. And from that soul perspective, that person loves you.
Mm-hmm.
And you love them, and, like, it's all just love. And, like, when you think about it from that perspective, I feel like it helps so much.
I've been approaching things in a similar way where, I just mentioned about my brother. I don't see that a relationship that I'm ever going to resolve, in an amicable way. But every other person in my life that I felt that there was some sort of bad blood, big or small, the past few years, I've gone out on my way to fix it. And, like, and I've had most of my breakups have been fine. It's like I'm not someone who has toxic breakups or toxic relationships, so it's not really there. But there have been little things, mostly with people involved in the rap scene, where I'm just like, I would rather never have to wake up wondering if this is, like, a problem or not.
Yeah.
And it doesn't take a whole lot of effort to fix those things. And once you've done it once or twice, you realize how easy and fulfilling it is. And then also giving people the grace to make their own mistakes too, and realizing and I've learned to be forgiving of people before they even do things, because I realized the amount of times the wrong words have come out of my mouth, or that, like, I wish I could take something back. It's just.
Yeah.
I can't hold people to a high. I was holding myself to too high of a standard, and therefore other people. But I've given myself a break, and, like, I had that moment that I think a lot of people have, where it's like, if I talked to other people the way I talked to myself for years, I wouldn't have any friends at all, and that's a problem that needed to be fixed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the best place to start, is with your relationship to yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And some people find that reconcilable. They don't. A lot of people can't find the beauty in themselves, but it's always there if you want to find it. And I think a lot of people look at other people and think that they got where they're at because they were born that way. I don't even like the word talent, because I think a lot of people, when I hear the word talent, I think a lot of people think it's something you're born with. Everything takes work.
Yeah.
It takes work to be healthy. It takes work. If you're not getting healthier, you're getting less healthy. So you need to be taking an active role in being who you want to be, or it's not going to happen. There's no reason anybody should want to listen to me rap. It's like, you look at me and just be like, this. It's just but, like, eventually people are showing up to shows. I'm going to Virginia soon to do some shows. It's like, people will be there. I hope. Sometimes they don't come.
Yeah, I've been in a couple bands, like, in my past, and yeah, I've definitely played to, like, empty rooms a couple times.
Especially these days where the audience is so fractured everywhere, Though I still think I'm coming around to the idea that your time is better spent in real life trying to get your audience than it is online, because in online there's so much noise now.
Yeah.
If people have actually shown up somewhere, or if you can get your stuff in a record store or something like that, like, where people who pay for music actually go, like, that's, because there's huge swaths of the population that'll never pay for music at all, and then there's people like me who have an embarrassing amount of records,
All right, I'm gonna start asking you some of my questions that I ask all my guests.
What were we doing before? I'm kidding.
Those were just for you. Those are special for you.
All right, sweet. Special part's over. Everybody can tune off.
Oh, no.
I just want to say hi to my family. Sorry, it's been a rough day.
Oh, I know. Well, you drove a long way to get here.
Yeah. It was worth it. It's a beautiful day, though.
Oh, good.
On whatever day this is.
What are you here for on Earth? Not to do, just what are you here to experience? Like, what did you incarnate here for this time?
I believe to do good. I feel like I've always been good-hearted. And when I was younger, it was really hard. Like, I almost grew up around so much sarcasm that I felt ashamed to have a genuine emotion. But I still had them. And I I always had, I mean, I can't say that I've always acted perfectly. There are times where I think I fell short of the way I probably wanted to treat people when I was younger. But I remember how horrible that felt and it being something I needed to correct. And I always felt that I had an obligation to treat people well. Oftentimes, even when they didn't treat me well. And I spent a lot of time treating people well who were not interested in treating me well. And at that point, I realized, oh, it's not just about being a good person. You have to also protect yourself. And I think that's sort of it's funny. My other little moment, similar to the Flash moment, is, and this is funny. It's also comic book related. There's something about the look in Chris Evans' eyes when he's Captain America that sometimes he'll say something about just right and wrong, and I'm like, yes, that sums it up, you know. And it's just, I strongly believe in right and wrong, which is why when I get harassed like this, I don't just acquiesce to it. I just, I know what's right. I know how I deserve to be treated, and I expect people to treat me that way. And if there's only one person in the world who can't meet that standard, as there appears to be, that's tough for that one person. And so I think I'm here to sort of, lately it feels like to a lot of my friends, I'm here to be their therapist, because that's been happening. A lot of my friends lately have been telling me that. But I think my goal is to be here to try to remind people to be nicer to each other. I gave you some stickers, and a bunch of those are ones that I made that say, be nice, be kind to someone today. The world needs it. And I just give those out and put them up everywhere because, unless you've seen them in your town, that wasn't me that put those up. Someone else did. That to me, that's the message that I want to give people, is that, there's so much about the world that wants to separate us and remind us how we're different. We need things that remind us how we're the same. And it should be kindness. And if you can't agree to it being kindness, then I think we have a bigger problem.
I think I found it.
Yep.
Be kind to someone today, the world needs it. Oh. I don't know. You can see it, but yeah. Beautiful. Yeah, and we do need it. And thank you for being that.
Oh, I appreciate it. Thank you. Seems like you're doing something similar. So
I try, yeah. That's my goal with this, and I try to live that way all the time.
it bothers me when and it doesn't happen much anymore, but it bothers me when I feel like I leave somebody with a bad impression.
Yeah.
I had to let it go at a certain point because I'm like, some people just aren't going to get it, but
you can't make everyone happy.
no, you can't. Especially if you don't start with yourself.
Oh, yeah. Nice. All right. What can we expect to see from you in the golden future of humanity? What do you see your role as in our transition to higher consciousness?
I feel like I'm someone who can talk about this to people who are somewhat skeptical of it and make them feel comfortable about it. I have a tendency that I believe in this stuff to a certain point. I'll believe in what I feel. But so the A to B of me going through my entire life and realizing how much other people's energy impacts me and what an effect it has on me, and just literally I can feel people's, and I know this sounds ridiculous to some people, but I swear I can feel people's feelings more than you would expect. And I can sense people better what's going on. I even feel embarrassed saying that, but it's something that has proven true in my life. But I also, when it comes to the step from B to C, which is giving it maybe a specific name or attributing it to something specific, that's where I'm less willing to travel, because I feel like now we're getting in, when speculation sounds like fact, and when you're making promises that might be unfulfilled. No, I mean you, but just in general. So I feel like for me, I like living in the world of this where it's both accessible, whether you're willing to believe in the big picture or not. because a lot of this stuff are really day-to-day things that like, it's sometimes a lot to ask of somebody to really like, there's so many layers to this energy thing, and it's like you can keep blowing it up in your mind, and it's like, I think if you can get people to layer one, it makes an enormous difference. And that to me is what I think I'm more capable of helping people with, and I find that I do well with people on a one-on-one basis, so yeah, I think I do a lot of art for free too. Like if somebody needs a flyer and I know it's going to help them out, I'll just do it. And I think my role has been, I think, to try to educate. Like I say player coach at work because that's what I do. I wouldn't ask anybody to do something I wouldn't do, and I make sure that I can do what they can do. You know? So I don't know. Just trying to be helpful but not arrogant. You know, teach but still learn. You know, it's where I'm at 45, I guess. So.
Yeah, I love that. Like everybody has their own understanding and their own journey, and not there's no way everybody's gonna have the same understanding of energy or the way things work. So if people can get like a starting point, that can open up their whole journey and just blow open worlds of possibility for them.
Yeah.
So that's really awesome.
Because when I first learned guitar, because somebody taught me one Ramones song, and that's all the education I had. So from there, I was able to take that, and it's like building steam with a grain of salt, to quote DJ Shadow, and like it's there's that as well. For someone like me, if I pick up on that little energy, I'm gonna keep chasing it. But I know some people only want to chase it so far. You know, some people only want to see the movie and not the sequel. And I think that there's still value in that. There's still, you know, like yes, you have the book here, the Four Agreements.
Yeah.
It's a pretty well-known book.
Yeah.
Like it's a lot of people are willing to read a book like that, but may not go deeper. But I would never discourage them from not reading that book. You know, I think a lot of people have been brought up with a very specific idea of what spirituality looks like. And as somebody who was raised Catholic in New England in this period of time, if anybody's seen, what was that movie? Spotlight. They've given you a lot of reasons not to really believe in, you know, in that. And so when there's a religion, no, I guess religion's too strong. When there's spirituality that asks very little of you, that does not ask for your body or your money, it's can be rather appealing, you know.
Yeah.
As long as they're not trying to get you to drink Kool-Aid and go to South America. But like, you know, I just encourage people to be open-minded but still skeptical when somebody actually wants something from you, you know. So
yeah, couldn't agree more with that. Really important to have that discernment. So, what's your highest, brightest vision of the future without worrying how to get there?
My goal has been not dying alone in a weird way, where it's like I mentioned other stuff about my family. Not a whole lot of family for me outside of that, and I'm 45, single, no kids. Probably won't have any biological kids of my own. But I've realized that in this time I've been single again, that there are other places out there where I can feel like I have a family. Like I've been able to, in the past few years with my podcast, my music, and my art, I've improved my friend relationship so much more. I've realized that now I'm capable of more, of like, you ever watch Parks and Recreation? Mm-hmm. Okay. That show to me, there's little moments in that show that just melt my heart. And there's two that I can think of. One is when the chief of police says to Adam Scott that Leslie Knope gets all the favors she wants because she uses favors to help other people. And I almost feel a tear in my eye as I say that. And it's like, I remember hearing that going, I'm honestly about to cry. But like, that like, I would wish somebody would say something like that about me. And, or not that I need them to hear it, but I'd love that to be true about me. And so since then, I have tried to, when I have favors, I use them to help other people. And the other one, though, that's maybe even a little more tied to your question is there's a point where Ron Swanson is dating Lucy Lawless, Xena. That's his love interest as the show goes on, spoiler alert. And he's somebody who's always lived a very closed-off life where he wants things the way it is and stuff like that. And the idea of going to Europe, he would never do that. But he says to her, he's like, he says all those things about how everyone wants to do this, but if you want to do it, I'll be there. And that's, to me, the point of my life where I've realized that I'm finally ready for, where it's like, I think I spent so much time being protective of myself and looking for excuses not to do something. I'm not going to take that trip because I just don't want to do it. So why should I? But now I've realized that the experience and sharing it and sharing that moment with somebody has a value that I'm way more ready for than I ever was. So when I picture my future, I mean, that's why it's hard to picture that both with the success of a music career, because I would choose that over the success of the music career every day. So to some degree, that's just not a priority because I want to have the thing that I've been frustrated not having my entire life. And I don't know what it looks like, but I don't want to feel ashamed of my emotions to a degree that I still sometimes have to in my own family. So, but I feel like I'm ready. It's just a matter of, finding the right situation. And I also know that I can take care of myself, and that's the most important thing, is that I'm going to be fine no matter what. So.
Beautiful. What do you want to plug, if anything? Anything that we didn't already talk about?
Just Soma79 everywhere. New albums coming out. I got songs coming out with Razcast, Elza, Young Dirty Bastard of Wu-Tang, Copyright, Mac Lethal, Esoteric, Cool Keith, Aztec, all these people. Rex, Digital Underground. Just if you're into underground hip hop, I'm sure you've heard of some or all those people. So those songs are coming. They're recorded. They're on their way. Opening for Elza this summer in Ontario, California. Not sure how many people are going to be in that area, but yeah, and if you don't want to listen, I really don't care. It's fine. Go about your life. There's a lot of other music out there. She's got some great music. You can check out her music. Maybe we'll have a song together. We'll see.
Oh, we'll see. Awesome. Well, I kind of already asked you this, but were there any other questions I didn't ask that you really wished I'd asked, and what are they?
Well, since I have a podcast every week, I kind of have the opportunity to say what I want to say. I don't know if there's anything else I really want to go into other than I really appreciate that you're doing this, and it's I can see how this is something that's good for you, and it's also I appreciate from the response I get from my podcast that it's good for others, and I think what you're doing is even more focused on self growth than what I'm doing, so I think you'll have an even greater effect on that on other people, and I don't know. I'm very happy to have been here and to make the trip out.
I'm so happy that you wanted to come out and that you were able to.
Yeah.
So yeah.
My pleasure.
Yeah, thank you so much, Soma.
No problem. Thank you.
It was so nice talking to you.
You as well.
Thank you for watching this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed. And see you next time.
Thank you. Excellent.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for watching this episode. If you're not already, please remember to like this video and subscribe to support this channel. Don't forget to check the links for today's guest in the description below. If you like watching my podcast and you think to yourself, I'd love to be a guest on that show, well, do something, get curious, get interested, be active in your communities. We all as individuals have great value to offer, and more than that, significance in being uniquely you. I invite you to open yourself up to every possibility you've ever dreamed of for yourself, or held back from letting yourself even dream. To quote Bonnie Ray, give them something to talk about. How about love? Really, put love in everything you do and watch miracles happen. Give us something to talk about that aligns with my mission of community, love, and awakening higher consciousness, and I'll have you on as my guest to ask, what is it like to be you? Keep up with me to be notified of bonus content when it becomes available, including tarot readings for my guests, opening ceremonies, breathing exercises, and more, including the incredible Breath 101 practice with Karina Karjan.
Kimomu, timeless flight. Spirit guides the darkest night. Take me by your side, so true. In a world where dreams come true. song so true. In a world where dreams come true.
That were below.
That's the garage. I'm sorry.
It's all right. Mine was louder. My old house.
Really?
Oh, it shook the whole building. Yeah.
Well, that might be the one on that side. There's 3 of them.
Yeah.
So, like,
That's why this place is so big.
yeah.
What was I just saying? That was only like 40 seconds ago. Roll the tape.
God. With confidence, harmony, and generosity.
Oh God, I really want to be skeptical about all this shit. But it's also weird agreeing to this because I do feel a certain like, oh yeah, that sounds great, that's me. But like it does sort of, I did work hard to kind of be that way, you know. I mean, the book wouldn't lie, would it?